It was a warm spring morning in Austin, Texas. 6. The city hummed with life. Street musicians played outside coffee shops. Students moved between classrooms, and the sun reflected warmly off the Colorado River. Among the residents, Sophia Bennett, 25, was preparing for another day at the Austin Children's Museum, where she worked as an educational coordinator. Sophia was known for her boundless energy, creativity, and the ability to make every child feel seen and valued. Her days were filled with designing interactive exhibits, leading workshops, and mentoring volunteers. Colleagues admired her patience and innovation, and families spoke of her warmth and dedication, noting how she could make learning feel like an adventure. Outside work, Sophia led a life filled with small joys. She loved exploring local art galleries, attending weekend hiking trips in the hill country, and volunteering at community centers teaching creative writing to children. Her apartment, modest yet vibrant, reflected her artistic flair, filled with paintings, books, and small mementos from her travels and work with youth programs. On March 15, 2006, Sophia had planned to visit a nearby library to finalize an educational program for an upcoming museum exhibit. She carried a notebook, art supplies, and a small laptop bag containing documents for her workshop. She had shared her plans with friends and family following her usual routine, structured, positive, and filled with purpose. By late afternoon, Sophia had not returned home. Her roommate Lydia Carter contacted the Bennett family. Concerned, Sophia's parents, Daniel and Margaret Bennett, and her younger brother Ethan, went to her apartment. Everything appeared in order. Her laptop lay open on the kitchen counter, art supplies were neatly arranged, and her notebook was on the dining table. Yet her absence was palpable, creating a quiet tension in a space that had always been full of life. Police from the Austin Police Department, led by Detective Lauren Hayes, were dispatched. Initial observations found no signs of forced entry, disturbance, or immediate danger. Investigators canvassed the neighborhood, spoke with library staff and cafe employees, and reviewed surveillance footage, seeking any trace of Sophia's movements. Volunteers and community members joined in, distributing flyers and sharing information on social media, emphasizing hope and support rather than fear. Witness statements provided limited clarity at first. Sophia was recognized for her calm and structured lifestyle. There were no known disputes or conflicts that could explain her sudden absence. Yet community concern remained high. Local parents, students, and colleagues organized small search parties, hoping to locate her quickly. Churches, schools, and volunteer groups offered assistance, emphasizing the supportive spirit of the city. Weeks passed without definitive leads. Detective Hayes and her team reviewed archival footage, photographs, and interviews with friends and coworkers. Each detail, however minor, was carefully documented. Sophia's reputation as a nurturing and conscientious individual guided investigators. Every step emphasized respect for her life, her routines, and her impact on the community. By 2007, the case had become a carefully monitored cold case. Evidence, including Sophia's notebook, art materials, and personal items, was preserved with meticulous attention. Community initiatives continued in her honor. The Sophia Bennett Youth Arts Fund provided scholarships, creative workshops, and volunteer opportunities for children, ensuring that her dedication to education and mentorship remained alive, despite the unresolved investigation. Over the next decade, advances in forensic technology allowed investigators to revisit preserved evidence. DNA analysis, fingerprint testing, and environmental sampling that had been unavailable in 2006 offered new possibilities. Every sample, from her laptop bag, notebook, and art supplies was examined with renewed attention, in hopes of uncovering leads previously invisible to investigators. Detective Hayes retired in 2016, passing the case to Detective Samuel Ortiz, who specialized in long-term investigations and had a reputation for patience and meticulous work. Ortiz focused on ethical investigative methods while maintaining a strong emphasis on preserving Sophia's legacy through community engagement. By 2018, previously overlooked details emerged from archival records, library visitor logs, minor transaction receipts, and handwritten notes from Sophia's notebook. These forgotten records revealed interactions and movements that had not been fully investigated. One such record indicated that Margaret Lynn, a librarian present on the day of Sophia's planned visit, might have witnessed a key moment that could clarify the sequence of events. Through careful reconstruction, investigators mapped Sophia's movements from her apartment to the library, noting subtle patterns of behavior and environmental traces. The combination of archival evidence and modern forensic analysis began to form a clearer picture of her last day, bridging the 2-decade gap between her disappearance and the present. Community programs continued to honor Sophia's contributions. Schools implemented arts and literacy initiatives inspired by her workshops, volunteers led mentorship programs, and local libraries hosted exhibitions celebrating children's creativity. The focus remained on positive action, reinforcing her influence while investigators pursued new leads. By 2019, DNA analysis from Sophia's preserved belongings revealed small, previously undetectable traces of contact. These findings, combined with the reconstructed timeline and forgotten records, suggested the involvement of an individual not previously considered, Caleb Reynolds, a local contractor who had occasionally worked near the library and museum at the time of Sophia's disappearance. Detective Ortiz approached the potential lead with care, ensuring that legal procedures and ethical standards were strictly followed. Surveillance records, archival footage, and interviews with former colleagues and neighbors helped reconstruct Reynolds' movements in 2006. Each piece of evidence was treated with meticulous precision, ensuring clarity and accuracy. By 2020, forensic testing confirmed subtle interactions between Reynolds and items belonging to Sophia, including fingerprints and material traces on her notebook and art supplies. This evidence provided the first concrete connection between a person of interest and the events of 2006. Investigators meticulously documented every detail, creating a clear, verifiable chain of evidence. With new forensic breakthroughs, Detective Ortiz coordinated structured interviews with Reynolds, emphasizing transparency, professionalism, and respect. Initially cautious, Reynolds gradually provided information that clarified his interactions with Sophia, contributing to a more complete understanding of the day she disappeared. By mid-2021, the investigation had reconstructed a comprehensive timeline. Every movement, interaction, and preserved piece of evidence was reviewed and cross-referenced. The culmination of forensic analysis, archival records, and witness statements created a clear picture that guided investigators toward resolution. By late 2021, Detective Samuel Ortiz and his team had assembled a comprehensive picture of Caleb Reynolds' presence near key locations in Austin during 2006. Employment records, neighborhood logs, and community recollections confirmed his temporary work assignments near the Austin Children's Museum and nearby streets. Each small detail, from timesheets to minor delivery logs, helped reconstruct a day that had remained unclear for 15 years. Investigators conducted interviews with former colleagues, contractors, and neighbors. While everyone recalled Reynolds as a quiet, diligent worker, subtle details emerged. Instances where he had been in areas coinciding with Sophia's routine that day. By cross-referencing testimonies with preserved forensic evidence, investigators identified patterns consistent with the interactions traced in Sophia's belongings. Sophia's notebook, art materials, and laptop bag remained central to the investigation. Advanced forensic analysis revealed fingerprints and trace fibers linking Reynolds to specific items. Environmental samples from her apartment and the library corroborated movements reconstructed from archival records. Each element was documented meticulously, forming a chain of evidence that bridged the decades. Community engagement remained strong. Schools, libraries, and volunteer groups continued initiatives honoring Sophia's life, emphasizing mentorship, creativity, and learning. The narrative focused on celebrating her influence rather than dwelling on the circumstances of her disappearance, reinforcing a positive legacy while the investigation progressed. By early 2022, investigators coordinated structured interviews with Reynolds. With evidence in hand, they approached him methodically, encouraging full disclosure. Initially reserved, Reynolds gradually confirmed interactions with Sophia on the day of her disappearance, clarifying previously ambiguous details and helping investigators refine the reconstructed timeline. Forensic breakthroughs played a pivotal role. DNA traces, previously inconclusive, were now matched to Reynolds through updated analysis. Fingerprints and material evidence from Sophia's personal items provided irrefutable links, while environmental samples and archived records reinforced the timeline. Each confirmation strengthened the integrity of the case, ensuring that every step was verifiable and ethically documented. By mid-2022, investigators had enough information to proceed with a formal arrest. Carefully coordinated operations ensured procedural integrity, focusing on clarity, respect, and adherence to legal standards. Law enforcement worked alongside prosecutors to prepare a comprehensive case file, verifying every detail and maintaining transparency. The arrest, conducted in late summer 2022, was executed with professionalism. Reynolds was informed of the evidence against him, including DNA matches, fingerprints, and documented admissions. Throughout the process, the focus remained on uncovering truth and preserving the dignity of everyone involved, emphasizing resolution and clarity rather than sensationalism. Following the arrest, the investigation team meticulously organized the case for prosecution. Each piece of evidence, from forensic traces to archival records and witness statements, was cataloged to ensure a smooth transition into trial. The careful preservation of Sophia's belongings and the ethical handling of testimony allowed the case to proceed with clarity and precision. Community programs inspired by Sophia continued alongside legal proceedings. Schools expanded arts and literacy initiatives, volunteers led mentorship workshops, and libraries hosted exhibitions celebrating children's creativity. These programs reinforced her legacy and demonstrated the enduring impact of a life dedicated to nurturing others. Detective Ortiz reflected on the broader significance of the investigation. Decades of careful preservation, methodical research, and ethical procedures had allowed the team to uncover the truth. The combination of archival records, community support, and forensic innovation demonstrated how long-standing mysteries could finally be resolved. By early 2023, prosecution preparations were complete. DNA evidence, fingerprints, environmental samples, and Reynolds' own admissions created a compelling case. The Harper family, schools, and community organizations collaborated to ensure the focus remained on celebrating Sophia's life and contributions, emphasizing inspiration, mentorship, and education. During trial preparation, the Harper family expanded community initiatives in her honor. Scholarships for students pursuing arts and education, volunteer mentorship programs, and public workshops became permanent programs, ensuring that her positive influence continued to reach new generations. These initiatives emphasized learning, creativity, and service, reflecting the values Sophia had embodied. By mid-2023, trial proceedings were scheduled. Prosecutors and investigators reviewed every element of evidence, ensuring clarity, ethical handling, and accuracy. The focus remained on Sophia's life, her creativity, mentorship, and dedication, rather than the circumstances surrounding her disappearance. Each testimony highlighted her impact on children, volunteers, and colleagues, reinforcing a narrative of positive influence and community enrichment. Detective Ortiz and his team also documented the case extensively for training purposes, providing future investigators with a model for resolving cold cases ethically and effectively. By combining forensic advancements, archival research, and community engagement. The investigation illustrated how decades-old mysteries could be addressed without compromising integrity or respect for those involved. As the trial approached, the Harper family continued to celebrate Sophia's legacy through programs and community outreach, annual arts and literacy festivals, student exhibitions, and mentorship workshops ensured that her contributions remained visible, tangible, and impactful. Each initiative reflected her commitment to education, creativity, and nurturing growth. By late 2023, investigators and prosecutors had completed final preparations for trial. Every detail, from forensic confirmation to archival documentation and community testimony, had been verified. The case was ready to move forward, combining decades of evidence, ethical investigation, and community support into a clear and respectful presentation of truth. By early 2024, the trial of Caleb Reynolds had commenced, drawing attention not for sensationalism, but for the inspiring story of Sophia Bennett, a young educator whose life had touched countless children and whose dedication to mentorship, creativity, and learning had left a lasting mark on Austin. Detective Samuel Ortiz meticulously prepared every aspect of the case, ensuring that forensic evidence, archival records, and witness statements were presented with clarity and integrity. DNA analysis, fingerprints, and environmental samples were all organized into a coherent, respectful narrative. Every element tied back to verified facts, demonstrating decades of careful preservation and investigation. The Bennett family, Daniel, Margaret, and Ethan Bennett, attended each session with quiet dignity. They shared heartfelt stories of Sophia's character, her warmth, creativity, and dedication to her students. Friends, colleagues, and former volunteers testified about the impact she had on children and the community, highlighting her ability to inspire confidence, curiosity, and joy in learning. Prosecutors presented the case with precision, emphasizing documented evidence and the reconstructed timeline of Sophia's last day. Forensic breakthroughs combined with Reynolds' own statements created a compelling account of events that had remained unclear for nearly 2 decades. Detective Ortiz highlighted the value of patient investigation and ethical evidence handling, demonstrating that truth could be uncovered even after years. Outside the courtroom, Austin's community celebrated Sophia's life. Schools hosted art and literacy programs, libraries organized workshops and exhibitions, and volunteer organizations continued mentorship initiatives. Her legacy became the focal point, transforming decades of uncertainty into an ongoing story of inspiration and community engagement. By mid-2024, the trial concluded successfully. Reynolds' admissions, corroborated by robust forensic evidence, provided closure for the Bennett family and clarity for the community. The case became an example of long-term dedication, showing that ethical investigation, modern forensic science, and community support could bring resolution to even the most enduring mysteries. Throughout the proceedings, the Bennett family emphasized remembrance over grievance. They expanded the Sophia Bennett Arts and Education Fund, offering scholarships to children pursuing creative endeavors and volunteer programs for youth mentorship. Local schools and libraries continued initiatives reflecting her values: creativity, mentorship, and education. Her influence, once abruptly interrupted, now thrived through programs touching hundreds of children annually. Annual events celebrated Sophia's contributions. Art exhibitions showcased student creativity inspired by her teachings. Literacy workshops provided mentorship opportunities, and community centers offered programs emphasizing learning and imagination. Each initiative highlighted her positive impact, ensuring that her life remained central to Austin's cultural and educational landscape. Detective Ortiz reflected on the broader significance of the investigation. This case demonstrates that patience, precision, and ethical investigation can uncover truth, even after decades. Most importantly, we honored Sophia's life every step of the way. Her story guided us. Schools and community organizations reported growing participation in programs inspired by Sophia. Children engaged in art projects, literacy initiatives, and mentorship programs, developing skills and confidence in environments reflecting her nurturing philosophy. Volunteers and educators cited her example as a guiding principle for engagement and community service. By late 2024, Sophia Bennett's presence could be felt across Austin. Students and volunteers continued programs reflecting her values, and local workshops encouraged creativity, learning, and mentorship. Her legacy became a living, tangible force shaping the city's youth and fostering a culture of positive influence. The Bennett family, relieved by legal resolution, focused on sustaining programs that reflected Sophia's values. Scholarships, mentorship opportunities, and educational workshops became annual initiatives ensuring her influence persisted. Community volunteers engaged in projects inspired by her creativity, reinforcing her legacy through action rather than memory alone. By early 2025, annual exhibitions, workshops, and mentorship programs had grown into citywide initiatives. Libraries and schools hosted events emphasizing arts, literacy, and mentorship, while community centers expanded youth programming inspired by Sophia's philosophy. Her life became a model of inspiration, demonstrating that dedication to others could leave an enduring, positive imprint. The resolution of the cold case marked not an end, but a continuation of Sophia Bennett's influence. Through educational programs, volunteer initiatives, and mentorship opportunities, her life continued to guide and inspire. Austin had transformed a decades-long uncertainty into a story of hope, creativity, and long-lasting impact. Sophia Bennett's story became a beacon for communities confronting unresolved challenges. It demonstrated that patience, ethical investigation, and careful preservation of evidence could reveal truth, while celebrating the values and legacy of the individual at the center of the story. By mid-2025, students, volunteers, and community leaders reflected on her life. Programs inspired by her teaching and mentorship had reached hundreds of children, instilling creativity, empathy, and confidence. Her influence extended beyond classrooms into the heart of the community, leaving a permanent legacy of inspiration and positive action. The Texas 2006 cold case had finally reached resolution, yet Sophia Bennett's story continued to thrive. Her creativity, dedication, and nurturing spirit left an indelible mark on Austin. Through community programs, mentorship initiatives, and educational opportunities, her legacy lived on. A reminder that a single life, lived with purpose, could inspire countless others and leave a lasting, positive imprint on the world.